Yes. So yeah, startings are very difficult sometimes. How to start, where to start, because the way we do it, it's not very structured. It's structured in the mind, but it's not like very fixed structure. So there are some points here. So just to begin my check-in, and maybe then Urmila can also introduce herself and share a little bit. So yeah, so I was thinking of making making it structure more simple and understandable, like a PPT kind of a thing, which I've done earlier also, and sometimes it works also. And then I was talking to Urmila, and she said that no, it's okay. You do spontaneously. You take the points that you've put there. So you start with those points, and and from that you can say, and a lot of stories come out spontaneously, and that are also fun. So it was like really knowing that what I'm saying is being valued. And I realized that it's so easy for us to fall into the trap of what is the right thing to do. And rather than I'll have to just switch off one more thing so that my this sound doesn't come. Mm, it goes from the chat, I think. Yeah, I found it now. So basically, when people enter the screen, enter the meeting, it gives a like a ping pong kind of a sound. So I wanted to cut that. It's very disturbing. Yeah. Okay, so I was saying that it's easier for us to fall back on the structures and systems that we're so used to it, and not really realize that we do have some value to offer, you know, in our own who we are. So it was a good reminder. And then when I looked at the pointers, which Urmila said that in my poster that I made 6 points where I talked about, that these are the things that if you are struggling with these things, then this retreat can help you and support you. And I put them and I started writing. So I took these pointers and said that one is that, whatever point I've given, like how does it look like? If you get drained out, how do you feel when you get drained out? How is your experience of it? And and then how does it impact you? And then what are we gonna and why does it happen? That's the second question. Why does this draining out happen? We want to understand that. And the third section, which in each point I'm going to talk about, what are we offering in the retreat, which is going to address this thing. So there's 6 points and each point has 3 stages. So there's some structure. So people think that it's like that spontaneous. So there is a structure also. So this is what I'm going to share. And before I go a little bit, I can talk about myself, and then Urmila can introduce herself. So a lot of people know me. Maya ji was my neighbor in Jaipur, next door, and Anjum I've spent time with, and Yamini also has been together for this BMLY we are doing. So yeah, so I grew up in Jaipur, and then I was married, and I was living in also Jaipur and Bombay, and working in shoots and all, which was a bit of a high pressure thing. Plus, I was going through my divorce and smoking cigarettes, of course, and eating all kinds of food. The breakfast in Bombay shoots would be keema pav, and I would enjoy it. So yeah, and so yeah, so in the end, and the pollution, humidity, and also I developed asthma kind of symptoms, and then I didn't want to take the inhaler, and luckily I came across people who were working with the wellness, like Vinita Mansata. There's one person, and then Vijaya Venkat also. And so there I learned some things, and I started exploring it. And not that everything that they're saying is like golden words, but like their vision I really enjoyed. And I did some things, and I could take care of my health. My asthma could be under control almost. And so that was very liberating. And yeah, whenever I start doing, I also become very sunky kind of a thing. I follow it up, sometimes with these things. And so this happened, but I noticed that whenever there would be an emotional stress, I would again get my wheezing. And so I saw the connection. And around 15 years ago, I came across nonviolent communication. And then you know, when I came across nonviolent communication, it really helped me, because I was noticing that earlier I was getting this wheezing because I was not expressing. And I was not expressing because when I expressed, either it would be attack or something, so others will react, and it's going to escalate. So I would shut down. but then shutting down also, I was keeping things inside. And that would also cause a lot of problems. So when I found a way where I could express without sounding like blame and attack, I found that very useful, and that helped me. So that I got excited about it, and I started sharing it, traveling all around the country, other places also, and I started sharing it. And then I realized that I was able to work one on one, but when we were working in groups, we needed more structure, more agreements. But uh, there's a line by somebody which says that we want organizations which are moving, and we want movements that are more organized. So I was missing on that part, and that is the time sociocracy came into my life, and I got excited about it, and I started sharing it, learning it, and I created a Instagram where I thought that, okay, let's people come together and experiment, and we live together. And some things were working, some were not working. The vision was not very clear. Sometimes very chaotic. Anjum has also experienced it, part of the chaos also. So yeah, so I think I realized that the vision was not very clear, and also the tools were not very much, very effective. So I was having inclusion, but sometimes effectiveness was not there. The house was not very clean, simple thing like that. Or the way we were organizing, who's going to cook, and we did a decent job with all the drama. But and then I came across holacracy, which I saw was actually bringing more efficiency also. Efficiency, not in a very exploitative way, but efficiency which is more effective. When you put your energy doesn't go waste. There is less, kind of, yeah, the fuel is burned well, so it's an efficient system. So and the 7, 8 years of Ahimsagram, and then I started sharing. I mean, I was already sharing nonviolent communication. I experimented with some businesses, and then I started sharing NVC, focusing on relationships. And when I did that, I realized that people, even relationships which are between two people and a family, they need systems. And in my one-on-one coachings, I started bringing in those systems to people's lives, like learning from holacracy. I would show that, what you're doing, why is it a problem? Because in structure, you're doing this. Like a simple example of like having an operations decision is a bit complicated. I'll share it more later. But like, while without having a policy, and if you start fighting over how it's done, so example is that, if like if we have a policy that we are going to make vegetarian food in this house, and then one person says that, but today I want to make meat, so which means, but there is no clear policy, but somebody has an expectation that we are not going to do it, but there's no clear policy, there's no agreement. So we need to make agreements also when we want to work together as a family. And that's where I thought that a lot of learnings which were from holacracy and sociocracy and NVC could be integrated in a very simple form, put together, and where in a, I mean, I would call it Teal family. I'll explain Teal word later more, but somebody who wants to live with a higher consciousness, where you want to relate to other people with respect, dignity, and also move forward. You can't be just like having a chaotic kind of a house where nothing is moving. And so yeah, so that's where I came up with this idea. So I, and now I'm realizing that, yeah, I'm integrating these different 3, 4 things to build families which are more collaborative and which are more consensual. So that's my journey, and I'll pass it on to Urmila, and she can share about herself so people can know about her.
Yeah, thanks, Shammi. I feel always very fortunate to have known Shammi since 2009 when my journey in this building community started. Until then, I was a housewife and a mother and unschooling my children. For those who don't know, unschooling is a kind of home ed field, a part of home ed where it's not homeschooling. We don't school our children at home. The children are allowed to grow up in freedom and autonomy, and that really my values of collaboration and connection really aligned with the work which Shammi's journey and my journey have kind of gone parallel and often converged. Earlier, I never saw myself as a facilitator, but over the last 2 years, so I had a 7-year relationship with a friend, and that ended up in a breakdown because it became very intense. And later on, I realized that she had a mental illness, and it's just completed 7 years of the breakup, and it's taken me almost 7 years to heal. In fact, both Shammi and Muzaffar are very familiar with that part of my life, and have also helped me, with NVC and with understanding what you know why I was in that relationship, what I was getting from that relationship, and how I mean, online you often find these things of, oh, toxic person, toxic relationship, etc., etc. But it helps a lot to understand one's own self and what draws these things to you, and why one uh, reacts and responds the way one does in relationship. So for me, relationships are very, very. I feel that family is the basic unit of society. And since I have been most of my adult life been a family person, and then it so happens from 2009-10, soon after I met Shammi, that the community started growing. Google groups for Yahoo groups and all started coming in. Email started coming in, so we would connect. I'm an obsessive compulsive connector of people, so I used to just collect emails and copy paste before the groups even started. No FB, WhatsApp, nothing, to connect people, because I really feel that there's a power in community, a power in family, a power in relationships. To heal not only ourselves. We forget that we are part of nature. We say, oh, save the earth, save animals, save this climate change, as if it's something apart from us. Whereas we are nature. And I feel that, yes, I feel that uh, family relationships and relationship and community is something which can help us remember our true nature, our nature, that we are nature, and it will have a healing effect not only on ourselves and our loved ones, but on rippling out to the planet, community, and the planet. So I feel that this is very important and basic work, and the main thing which breaks out down in families is the fact that we have normalized habitual ways of talking, habitual ways of reacting. And I feel quite sad, very pained, in fact, that we have normalized very rude and crude ways of uh, talking to each other. The ones we love the most are the ones we are most rude. We'll be polite with everybody else as much as we can, but the ones who are in our homes, ones whom we love the most and who love us the most, we are rude to, only because we don't have the tools. The moment I began, learning the tools, and I've noticed even Shammi and his relationships, Muzaffar also has brought NVC into our Pune community. When these things have come in and we knew the tools, and the people who practiced it, of course, and the people who came back for the classes and the practice groups, it has had an excellent it definitely has made the relationships better. And now I can see that Shami, with his Being Me Loving You community, where you have a WhatsApp group, where you have people who return, and there's a regular, a weekly meeting and regular monthly workshops and whatever it is. Muzaffar has also started that. That makes all the difference, because we have so many years and years of conditioning, that to have a supportive community where you can bring your burning issue. Hey, I've been practicing, but this issue came up, how do I address this? And then you have somebody who can uh, walk you through the steps of daily issues that we have in our relationships and in our homes. I also, last thing I want to say is, I like Shami's thing of bringing systems into the household. After our last meeting, I suddenly realized that my grandmother didn't have a mother; she died in childbirth, and so there's a lot of downside and trauma to that. But the upside is that my grandmother unschooled herself. She had a father and two brothers, so all the womanly things she had to teach herself, and her systems in the kitchen I realize I am so systematic at home because my grandmother's passed it down to my mother, who's passed it down to me. My grandmother literally had labels on her handies in the fridge, and systems of what to finish and how you never run out of any groceries in the house, and so many systems which I follow till today, and things run so smoothly. And I feel we could do unschooling because we had systems in place which we didn't even realize. Very structured and system, loose ones which allow, not loose ones, porous ones, which are not confining but which are liberating. Because you have things in place, you don't freak out all the time, oh, that I can't pay attention to you because the milk is over. It never happens in a house, believe it or not. I'm running houses for 3-4 decades, and we sort of run out of milk once in, or anything once in 6 years or so. So yeah, over to you, Shammi. And these little things are important. I like that Shammi makes these things important. How the kitchen, the how we talk to each other. Yeah, sorry.
That's great. And also to let people know that Yamini and Rahul are also there. So Yamini and Rahul have been part of this program that I was offering called Being Me Loving You, where we would meet every week and then we kind of build a community around it, and we would bring up some part of NVC or any other modalities and work on relationships. And so they will also share their experience at some point, and how was it for them, and yeah, anything they want to add to it, and they're welcome anytime. Yamini, if you and Rahul, if you want to jump in and any point you can you want to add something, you're welcome. Yeah, you want to say something now or you want to say it later?
Yeah, I can share now, I
Great.
think. So yes, it's been, I think, 6 months since I've been part of BMLY community. And I joined the community, uh, for some reasons that I wanted to see wanted to see things differently, and also, deal with conflicts differently in my relationship and all. But definitely by the end of 6 months now, I feel like I have learned much more than that. Not just relationships, but also how we, see other people, and how to bring real empathy into our interactions with anyone for that matter, whether it's people who are close to us or whether it's strangers, or I am an architect myself, so how to see people you're working with, who you're doing business with, how to see them with empathy. So by this 6 months of practice and also the work that we have been doing, it has been really valuable. And I really value the all the learnings that we had, and all the topics that we touched upon, which are so primitive, and especially all the different facilitators who come in and who share their knowledge. Urmila also has come and shared her experience and her knowledge, and it's just wonderful. And especially being part of a community who is creating this safe space for you to uh, just basically be yourself, and also explore your authentic self. And also, like how Urmila said, to bring in day to day instances, and talk about daily things that we find difficult to deal with, and especially how to deal with conflicts. I think that is such a beautiful learning and such a beautiful journey that we have been on. And I mean, to see conflicts in a very different way, not something as not as something bad, or something which is an obstruction, or something bad for a relationship, but as something which you grow from. So that is something that I think is really valuable, that I learned in the BMLY community, and all the non-violent communication sharing that Shammi has uh, been giving. every Wednesday I have made it a point that I have to attend every session. And for 6 months, I think there are only 2 sessions I didn't attend because of some reasons. But I've attended every session, whether I'm tired, whether I'm angry or
Cooking,
frustrated,
whether I'm
cooking,
cooking, I'm
whether I'm
eating,
cooking, whether I'm eating,
or I'm
whatever I'm
sleepy.
doing. Yeah, so that's the beauty about this community, that you can just be yourself, even if you have other needs, you want to lie down or you want to sleep, you can just do that. Even if you want to rest, no one will tell you that you have to be in a certain way, and you have to show up in this way or that way. So that has been such a huge um, journey for me, and I mean, it's been I've been very fortunate actually to come across this group and to come across Shammi's work, because now, I am also learning from Shammi how holacracy works, and, trying to just help him with organizing the retreat. So uh, it's been amazing, and I can only see forward. I think, this journey just goes on. So I'm very happy to be part of this community.
Thank you, Yamini. Rahul, do you want to share anything now or later, or whatever is your comfort level?
Rahul is cooking right now, so I
Okay,
don't know.
great. So let him cook. Or you want to say he switched on, is unmuted? Do you want to say anything, Rahul?
Well, as always, good to be part of this call. I mean, I think Yamni mostly shared a lot of things that resonate with all of us. I can just add one thing to people who are also sort of used to these systems. Maybe for them, it's something to learn or specific topic to learn. For someone like me, uh, everything is new. So, I mean, like probably when I joined the BMLI group, I didn't even know why I joined it, or I had some idea that this is what I'm going to probably learn or something. But in real, it's a very wholesome experience where it gets into the root of a lot of issues that I didn't even know myself, or a variety of tools to handle a lot of things. So I think that's the only thing I can add, that this is not like what you would expect when you're joining the retreat as well, or the community as well. This is a lot of things that you might not even know that you will be absorbing and learning. So that's actually something that even I'm looking forward to, while going to the retreat, like being keeping a really open mind, because there are many things that I would probably absorb just by being there. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Rahul. And the best part is that I'll just change something. So yeah, even I didn't know that each session, I don't know what direction the session will take. Yamini and Rahul know that. So it's funny, sometimes when I start session, I'm also excited about it, whenever the session happens, generally because I plan my day accordingly. But the people coming, some say that they are tired, some are just sleepy, some are in a bad mood. But after sitting there for 2 hours, they all come to the equated level, so some on the same plane. And yeah, so with something which Jinan says, a friend, that there is something called knowledge transfer and knowledge creation, which I really like that. So in a knowledge transfer, there is somebody, assumption is that it transfers the knowledge, which John Holt also is very critical about it. In his book, he writes about, instead of education, like education as something that somebody does to somebody, and he's against that education. So what I realized that in our sessions, I start with the premise or some structure I have, and then people put in, and it's such a learning experience for me also how it unfolds. And thanks to Rahul, what he's saying, that that he doesn't like, it's something that sometimes it cannot be explained also what's going to emerge. It's an experience that's going to come, and which we have experienced, and the bonding and the learning that has happened. So yeah, it's a very interesting point that I heard from Rahul and also Yamin. So great. So I'll start sharing about some of the points that I shared. So there were 6 points I shared, and of course there are so many things that going to happen in this gathering for 6 days, and 5 facilitators and so many support team members also, who will also be kind of co-facilitating, like, in a way, Yamini, Rahul, and so many others who have been part of BMLY and who have, a lot of experience also. So they would also be helping in holding the space with smaller groups and maybe more. So one of my first points were, and I would say anybody can chip in, anybody can add things, anybody can interrupt, anybody can ask questions, including Urmila, Yamini, or anybody, and other participants also. So first point was that, do you give more and get less in your relationship? I won't say that, I don't know whether you actually give more or, or you experience it, but my question is more that, do you experience that moments where you feel that I'm giving more in this relationship? So how many people here sometimes experience that, that I'm giving more, and I have a feeling of that. You may or may not. Yeah, I don't know what's the reality. I also feel it oftentimes, when the trigger happens. So if anybody wants to share that, do they feel that in some moments that they give more, anyway, so yeah, since we are recording, I don't want to put these people on a spot also. So anyway, so yeah, but if you're open to sharing, you're welcome. So how does this giving more happens? How does it look like? I would say. So it can happen at emotional level, that I give more empathy, I understand the other person, I understand their mistakes, their triggers, their anger, I try to adjust things accordingly. Or it could be at the physical level, where I am putting in more energy to nurture others and I'm not getting nurtured. Mayaji is putting in the chat. And I'm really glad that Mayaji is here. And Mayaji lives in Jaipur as a neighbor. And she has just been awarded the Padam Shri also. And and we are honored to have her with us. And she has this group called Sahayata, where they train people in accident, when accident happens. And Mayaji, do you want to share anything in the chat or in audio a little bit? Or you can share later also. But yeah, she does that. And so she's sharing that, yeah, she also feels that she gives more. Yeah, so I would say that, how does it look like? So how does it feel if anybody, Urmila, do you want to share, like, when those moments when you feel that you give more and get less? Is it more emotional, physical?
Maya Ji has unmuted, so maybe she wants to
Okay,
speak.
Maya Ji, you want to speak? Please go ahead. So Urmila, yeah, you were about to share, if you want to say, when those moments when you feel that, how does it look like?
Yeah, I always feel that I understand everybody else and that I'm having a comfortable life, so I should do more, and everyone else is not so comfortable as me. That's just a attitude I have in me. So I feel I give more in understanding and empathy and work, physical work, and everything. I keep letting everybody off the hook. So I need to,
and I think the other part of this is that you could be doing this, you would like to give more and you give more, but do you sometimes also feel resentful about it? That's the drama in it. Sometimes in those moments I do feel resentful that I'm giving more, kind of a thing.
yeah,
So
there are moments.
yeah. So I would say the emotional part is that, let me talk about the physical part. Physical part is that, which I've learned, that our body needs energy the whole day. What I've heard from my mentors also, that I don't know however many cells we have, 7 trillion cells or more than billion cells, 7 billion, but each cell needs a packet of glucose every 3 seconds. And that's where, when our blood is going, the blood pressure, when it reaches those cells, it becomes almost like zero, because its job is to provide that glucose. And so when that energy is to be needed, so our intake of energy is very continuous. And if we don't nourish ourselves with the right food, or or even the right rest and things like that, our body is not going to get the energy. So when I'm giving more, then I start having tiredness, I start having headaches, migraines, or whatever. So that is one part that we need to look at. this of giving more, that am I taking care of myself? Am I prioritizing my own self-care? If I need rest, if I need to eat food and so the bell rings, if somebody calls me and then I stop all those things that I need. And so I'm not saying that from tomorrow people just like switch from another mode, but let's start becoming aware of it, and the other part is about the emotional part. And the emotional part could be that, which I shared, that where I was not comfortable like expressing myself. And I was scared that if I express myself, it can trigger other people. And when they get triggered, they hit back or they get back, and then it escalates, and I have to deal with them. So I shut down. So when I shut down, then I'm not able to make requests. I'm not able to point out things that I don't like. And I'm not able to make agreements or policies also. So as a result, my needs are not taken care of. So this can happen because the methods that we have learned for sharing from our society are such that they are full of blame and attack. And if, for example, I give example ki agar glass toot gaya ya glass tod diya, so because if I'm going to say glass tod diya, then obviously somebody is going to receive it like that, and then I'll get some kind of a consequence and a response from that, which is also going to be triggering. So now my third part is that what will we learn we'll also doing this Teal Family Retreat, or whether we do the retreat or not retreat, but where is the way forward? So the way forward would be, how do we speak in a language which doesn't sound like blame or attack? So which means a lot of non-violent communication practice is going to help in this. So using the tools from NVC, how we share about our observations. The first thing is about, rather than sharing a story, I share my observation, and which says easy to find a common ground. That is one. Or make clear requests. Even make requests which are doable. For example, if I tell somebody that I want you to be sensitive, I mean, it's not specific actually. So we'll go to these nuts and bolts of things and fine tune so many things so that people are actually able to speak a language or go closer to that, or experience a language where there is less blame. And about the physical part of it, we would be talking about, Laila would be focusing more on that also, about how are we nourishing our bodies, what is the food that is natural for us, which we think at least is natural, some of us. And then we will also be offering like tools for it, like how to have that food accessible to you. How do you bring that in your life? Because it's again a very systems thing. If I go to a typical another Punjabi family house and I say that I want this kind of if I want to make vegetables also, just to say vegetables, if the kind of vegetables that I would like to eat, the quantity, I mean, that would be, the whole family might eat that many vegetables. So then I have to organize the things in such a way, I have to bring those vegetables there, or I have to have those. If I'm having less oil, I may have oil seeds, So then is there coconut there? Is there cashew there, or whatever I want? So again, the kitchens have to be designed in the way that it can give you that food. I'll give you a story. For example, there is a family where they say that their daughter is like having junk food, and I asked them that, have you tried to make this food at your home? They said no. And then I thought, it's a big blind spot. If she's going out every time for having this food, then why don't you, encourage your cooks to make that food? And you might have to learn it. So it will need a different system. So we will be focusing on responding to this give more and get less, the emotional part of it and the physical part of it. And there is a way forward in that. So that is one point. So let me open it to people if anybody wants to comment on this or talk about their experience about it, or they add anything to it, and then I'll go to the next one. Okay. So this was one. So I'll go to the next one, which was, do you want to learn to have good fights? So maybe how many of us here think that it's bad to have fights, or we have been taught that it's bad to have fights? If you can raise your hand and say that, yeah, that's their education, is that people who fight are bad,
Yeah, I think that my experience, and probably everyone's experience with fights, the model that we have always seen, and therefore that became the normal idea of a fight, was always very destructive and disruptive and hurtful and painful. And so I thought, and I'm assuming everyone feels that it's a bad thing. And the first time at a Learning Society's unconference, you had brought up this thing that let's have a fight room. And with you also in the community, we had addressed, where community members were upset with each other, and had, even before I'd heard of NBC and everything, where we communicated in such a way, compassionate and empathetic, where we would listen to everyone's side and then try to take that side of the story to the other people. And you made a fight room, and I said, hey, this is really nice.
Thank you. So I like this Dominic Barter's work, who says that like conflict is not just natural, but is necessary. Or he says one more thing, that the closer I'm to conflict, the safer I feel, because when I don't know what is happening, I don't know what is going on in their head. But if I'm in a conflict and somebody is able to share it, and apart from that, there's a container where I have a space where somebody can help me in hearing that person, or there is a space and time for it. So that helps. And I think this is happening in our society because we have grown up on a very retributive kind of a thing, that if you do wrong, it's you need to be punished. So we don't want to acknowledge in front of everybody that I've done something wrong. Plus, there's a lot of shame also in it. And so people don't want to acknowledge that. So they want to stay away from these fights. And I would say the Teal family, they would try to create a space for having good fights, I would say. Or like I use the example of composting. So how in composting, when you have a dustbin where you have the wet waste and the dry waste and everything is together, then they all rot. But if you want to compost it, then you have to separate the wet and the dry. Then even in the wet waste, you have to add some dry leaves. You have to have a proportion of carbon and nitrogen. And then in the leaves, you also use some sticks and things like that, so that there is a gaps, there's aeration to the wet waste. So basically, it's like, your quilts and rajais, if there are worms in it, they khatmal, jise bolte hain, ya bed bugs. So then you put them in the sun, you give them air. But if you don't give that air to the conflicts, then they're going to rot. If you put them under the carpet, they come out the other side in a bigger form. So I also use the word conflict composter. That do you have a conflict composter at your house? Hopefully you can compost your kitchen waste, but you can also compost your conflicts. So that was one. And a Teal family would have conscious conversations about how to deal with conflicts, and develop systems for it. And as you said, Urmila, the room for it, Again, I like Dominic Barter's work where he says that we have a room for eating food, we have a room for, we have a room for cooking, we have a room for bathing, we have a room for resting, but we don't have a room or a space for fighting. So how do we create those spaces? And which again, I would say Vijaya Venkat's thing I really like. She used to say for healing, it needs time, space, and energy. So which means that, is it the right time for the fight? You're just about to sleep and one person wants to fight. Or you are going to drop your child and then you start the fight. And is it the right space? I'm talking about a conflict in a space where 3 more people are there. I can't even talk, And I haven't had my lunch and then I want to have a fight. So is it the right energy? So some things need to be taken care of, when you want to create that space. And how do we consciously do it? And again, when we do this retreat also, it's not about that we give a system to everybody. So we would encourage the families who are coming to sit together, whether if they are coming with their partners and children, great, to design their own system, that what works for us and mom in our house or dad, what works in our, and so make agreements for it. So that is the second point which I was sharing. And we have some more people have joined. Natasha, hi Natasha, and Anandi. So I guess you caught up in between, but what I'm sharing is that the different points that I shared in my poster, about 6 points, like, there's some challenges. First was that, do you sometimes feel that you give more and get less and feel resentful about it? And if that is happening, why is it happening? And then what is the rectification we can do? And same way we're talking about that, do you want to learn to have good fights, or you miss on good fights, or you just put them under the carpet? So if that is the thing, what are the systems that you want to create? So I've shared the second point, and again, I'll keep making breaks where if anybody wants to add anything to it, you're welcome. Anything that triggers inside you, any idea, any insight, not just questions, about the idea of conflict, you're welcome to share. And just to tell, Natasha and Anandi have also come, and there's one Mission Bunyad also, I see name, that we're also recording this call, and we'll be sharing it on our website. But if you share something and you later on feel that you're not feel comfortable, you can let us know. We will cut it out. So if you
Yeah, just that earlier I was saying that I really liked the fact that this fight room concept of yours at the LSUC in 2012 helped me to shift from thinking fights were a really bad, harmful, hurtful thing to something which it needs space and it can be resolved and everything. That was the next phase. But in more recent years, I've actually found that and somewhere I had read that there's this lady who does work in conflict, and that she looks forward to conflicts and she searches for conflict, and she jumps in when there's conflict. And now I thought, my gosh, I can never be that kind of a person, though I wish I could be that person. But now at least I've reached the stage where every conflict I go into it as an opportunity for heart opening and for connection. And I've learned how to do that. It's still an effort. It's still not something I uh, would look forward to like that lady did. And perhaps you do because you're very confident in that area, Shammi. But for me, I definitely am not at all afraid of conflict now. I'm able to jump in when it comes up, and I enjoy the fact that it's an opportunity for heart opening and learning. Now, how can I connect? How can I connect with especially the closest people in my life? I know that now I have this confidence that if I just keep on and on being open, I can connect. So this confidence I've got very recently, and I'd love to share this with everyone. Yeah.
thank you.
I wanted to share that one thing that I have experienced the heart opening exercise that Urmila is talking about, and I'm hoping that she'll let us experience this in person as well in the retreat, which I think will be a great practice for us to learn. Apart from that, I feel like I do resonate with Shammi and Urmila that whenever we come across conflicts, it's actually a chance for us to connect with the other person, because in that moment we are sort of very clearly able to see, probably, or we can try to see what their needs are at that point. And it gives us the opportunity to understand and learn more about, and it also gives us feedback about how we um, you know how we show up in our relationships. So yeah, I think I do resonate a lot with what Shammi said about conflicts and what Urmila said.
So there's something that Dominic says about the systems blindness around conflict. Like, we don't see that there has to be a system for it, and a lot of these conflicts are happening because something missing in the system. Like, for example, if when I give example of plumbing, like, if your plumbing is bad in the house, you'll keep having seepages. So are the pipes okay? Are they having created enough space for it? But when a conflict happens, it takes us back to telling us what's wrong. Urmila really likes that I bring in stories, so I'll share a story that this friend of mine today called up. She's also into NBC, she's an NBC trainer. That she was sharing that she discovered that she has blood pressure issues and she's really worried, and they're telling her to have less salt, high blood pressure or something. So I said, okay, you can take care of that. I gave her some ideas for just to take care of the salt part and how she can have food with lemons and things like that. But I said, you need to look at why is it happening. And I asked her that, are you sleeping enough? She said, I'm not sleeping enough. Are you having food which is too oily and things like? She said, no, I'm not. I'm having that food which is oily. So when she started sharing all these things, then she said, we need to take care of that. If you don't take care of that, but for that, we need to first take a container where we can tell us where the pain is, in the system. And then when we open it up and it's like, as Urmila was sharing, it's actually a very moving thing that so much pain is happening not because people are fighting, but people are not able to have good fights. So I wish we can create more spaces where we can express ourselves, feel safe, and for that we need to create a mahol. Sama bandhna padega जिसे कहते हैं कि वो, and what is that? What is the time, space, energy we'll create? Facilitators will create, process will create. So that's what we need to have an intentionality around it. So this was the second point which I wanted to share. And the third point is, and any point
I can add one story to that.
Yes.
I remember at one NBC international conference, John and I attended your session, Shammi, and there was this mother whose grown son was not present at the conference, and she had this conflict constantly with her son. And so you asked John to role play her son, and he doesn't know her, he doesn't know her son. But you told her, just say all the things which you normally say, and we all know our repetitive patterns and we cannot break out of it. So she was brilliant in remembering all her things which she normally tells her grown son. And you told Johnny that for those who don't know, John is my husband. So you told him that take a step forward when you feel connection and take a step backward when you don't feel. And it became so clear to her that which of her sentences helped with the connection. Yes. And her son felt connected, and which he felt really bad. There's so many things we do. We don't want to hurt our loved ones, and we do that. And that has helped me now and him, because now he can tell me when he says, no, I'm not feeling connected. And I think I'm saying the right thing. I think I have the right connection. I think my tone of voice is right. But he'll tell me clearly after having that embodied experience that, hey, I'm unable to connect, and then I'm able to see, reattempt. I just wanted to share.
So basically what you're saying, that you keep getting second chances. So rather than just flowing in your apni hawa mein dhar, like you keep giving your statements. Since John gives you the feedback, no, this is not working, you kind of reframe your sharings. Great. Thank you. Okay. And the third thing which I wanted to share was that, are you overwhelmed by house chores? So if anybody wants to share, how is it? Does anybody feel that there's too much to do in the house? So I have experienced it a lot, that when people I'm working with, and then I had to really reorganize how we were working at home, and so we could be struggling. Like, for example, somebody told me that my wife has like 3 helps, and still things are not happening. So then then I was saying that you need a good manager for those 3 helps also. That is also a skill, and you pay more to the manager, so you're expecting her to manage these 3 people, and without her having the tools and the knowledge or the time and space for it. And why is it important to work on it? Because I'll give you another story, that I take care of the kitchen more, and Laila takes care of the other thing, like clothes and all, which is, I'm so grateful, like yesterday she showed me the cupboard. She had set up the cupboard for me, and it's winter now, so these are your jackets, these are things for home, this is for inners, these are for inners when you sleep, these are the inners when you're outside. And it was so moving for me to hear. I said, I should just make a reel of like the whole cupboard was like, I never had in my life. There are 5 shelves, and she's telling me three instructions that 5 into 3, 15 sections were there. So, yeah, so there's this lot of overwhelm that happens around the organizing of the home because it is not being seen as a system again. Like that's what I say. You start a like piddly little startup, and then you say that I want the finance part, I want the sales part, I want the marketing part. But when somebody is running a house, you don't say there's a purchase department and there is a, all these things need to happen. It's just expected that it was ho jayega. So that's another blind spot, that people are not seeing house as a system and not putting energy to run it like a system. And since I'm working with holacracy and things like that, I would like to bring in those things. And the system, either how do you build a collaborative system? That's the next question. I can have a system like a Haldiram or a, like a, like a corporation, which a businessman who was running a restaurant makes a big corporation. So they have a system, but their systems are still control and command. Those systems are not collaborative. They don't have a lot of joy, I would say. But we can also create systems where choices matter, like so I would be bringing, or we would be bringing some of these things. And one part of these systems is that you need to also create a process where you can bring up the tensions that happen in a day-to-day level, because life is dynamic. Like that's what the difference between organism and mechanism. Like a computer is a mechanism where if it works really well. Like you can have a Mac, works really well, but if you throw water on it, it doesn't work. That's what happened once in my computer. The table, there was a water came and it went from inside. We had to like really work on it because the computer could not get up and move from there. So it was a mechanism. But if there is a puppy and there's some water comes there, the puppy will move from there. So luckily we are having a, when we are working together, we have living people. We have a dynamism. Like this Francis Ford, who once said that, when I get a worker, the problem is they also have a mind, because he didn't want workers with a mind. But if you can really create that space of people's minds, they can contribute. And those are the systems I'm talking about, which are very dynamic. And for that, you will need systems to bring out the tensions where people can sit together. So then you can create it. I mean, again, Vijay Venkat used to say that you can't repair a moving car. So you have to stop sometimes. But the other drama that happens in homes is, but where is the time for the meeting? So how do we create those spaces? How do we first see the value in it? Because if we, you would like in our house, our people who come, our house helps and all, they know the word policy. Like if we say that कि फ्रिज में बर्तन रखना है तो उसकी पॉलिसी कि उसको ढकना है. So they ask this kind of a question. They understand roles. I'll give an example that we have somebody who comes to do the cooking, and one person comes to for some time to do the bartan. And I told her that the person who does cooking, I said, you whenever you notice some dal is finished, you write it down in a book. Because I don't want you to tell when, when the dal is just not there and suddenly you tell me just 1 hour ago that dal is not there. And then I also asked her that, can you also note down and let me know when the detergent gets over? He said, but that's the woman who does the cleaning of the utensils. Isn't it her job? I said, yeah, you're right. Because she would know the first when the detergent is over. So they are aware of this language, I'm saying. So it's very, if you come to our kitchen and see, yeah. So people know their roles and accountabilities. If they can't read and write, then we will make checklists which have drawings in it, So they're watering the plants and things like that, or the menu is there, or so yeah. So this overwhelm in the house chores, that's one part, and not everybody would have house helps. But even if you don't have that, then how is the work being shared there? And one thing very important, it is that people need to understand the idea of separating the role and the soul. Like if somebody is making chapatis, they are making the role, they're doing the role of making chapatis. They are not designed by nature to make chapatis. They are doing a role. So first task. So sometimes these things may sound like very French. That what am I talking about? But Actually, I'll give you an example. There I was coaching one family, and I asked them to break down the tasks that are happening. And simple thing like washing of clothes. So the woman said that I take care of the clothes. So I said, great. So that is the purpose of the role, but that's not the accountability. So accountability, when we started breaking down, they were like कि कपड़े को colored को separate करना है white से. You know, they will be picked up from where the clothes are there. Then they have to go for a different wash. Then they have to be dried up. Then you put the underwear separate and this separate and that separate. उनकी घड़ी करना जैसे बोलते हैं. So that would be done. And then putting them in the cupboard. Then some will go to the iron के लिए. And then the ironing से वो आएगा. So, I was shooting a reel with Laila about, this ironing wala thing. And I said, this short of, she writes it in a diary also. No? So the editor who was there with me, she said that I don't think people will understand what is this in the diary. I said, anybody who does clothes will understand what is there in this diary. Don't worry, you put this short. So, and when we make this reel, like we have like 3 lakh views on this simple reel. I mean, even though my page is not very hot in that sense. So, yeah, so what I was saying was separating the role and the soul. So we will need to understand what is the system, and like an organization, like what are the roles that are there in running the house. So when we talked about with this person that what are the tasks, she felt really good. She felt, and in the end, the husband also said that one thing that I learned from it today, that I used to think that my wife has some time, but what I realized today was that she doesn't have the time which I'm thinking of. Because when the roles were broken down, he realized that there was a lot of things which were there in it. But the person who's doing it also doesn't know. And then they have the overwhelm, Like they're constantly busy. They're like, I know a friend whose mom like sleeps at 11 o'clock, वो डस्टबिन वहां रखने जा रही हैं, ये करने जा रही हैं, पानी दे रही हैं, कपड़ों को ऊपर नीचे कर रही हैं. And actually it's coming from a mother also who was doing a lot, and she landed up with Parkinson's and she died when she was 45. And
I think Shammi lost connectivity. We'll wait a minute.
Yeah, I think he'll be back. In the meantime, Urmila, you wanna
Yeah, I was also saying that when this whole thing about home and roles and everything, so most of my life I was a housewife and a mother, and I managed all these things, and it so happened without my realizing it that my husband and I fell into an old fashioned pattern without us deciding it or discussing it. And that was fine. But now that the children are grown up and they're adults and mostly they have gone, now I'm no longer in the role of a housewife or a mother. And recently, 2 years ago, on top of that, I started working. So as Shammi knows, and we host people a lot in our home. We've always got people staying in our house. And recently I've been calling it unhost, because we do unschooling, we do unhosting. So we don't really look after our guests, but they're welcome to come and stay. And so I have a WhatsApp group called Cohab. We're all cohabers. We're not husband and wife and mother and son and guests. So everyone is an equal cohab. And so Shammi also was once a cohab in our house. We add them to the group, and then we put messages. One thing for when groceries are finishing is whoever sees that the sugar's almost finished or the tea's almost finished, there's a blackboard right in the middle of my sitting room. I don't mind if it spoils my decor, but then we have this system which works, and we're never running out of anything, because before it runs out, someone writes it on the board, and someone takes the responsibility of ordering on Zepto, or somebody goes and buys the fresh stuff or whatever it is, and we work it out. We have meetings. And one of my cousin also said that, hey, but even I love this idea of family meeting, but I call a meeting and nobody comes. But also, one thing I learned at the sociocracy time is that in the beginning, maybe one will come or two will come. And then when they see that things are running, most importantly in these structures that I've learned from Shammi in NVC and in sociocracy and now in holacracy, is there space for everyone's voice to be heard? Who won't come for a meeting then? If the mother is going to call people, everyone must come to the meeting, and now I'm having a tough time, and now you do this and you do that. Why will they come for the meeting next time? So it has to be voluntary that to come to the meeting in the beginning. And slowly, everyone comes to the meeting because, hey, they had a problem because of this. And each person had it's in holacracy, it's called tensions. There's just in the structure, everyone bring your tensions. You write it in this, there's a structure even online, Class Frog, a framework. Everyone just paste your tensions on, and then it's addressed one by one. Everyone is heard. So if you want to come to the meeting. Yeah, Shammi, sorry, we lost you.
And the other part is that if somebody doesn't want to come for the meeting, that's okay, because that means that that issue is not important for them. But the other part which I have to educate people in organizations also, that if you are experiencing a tension and this overwhelm wali story jo hai, then sometimes it's okay to pass on the tension, which is, so don't take other people's tensions. Basically, that's the thing. That's just the secret of doing more, that you start, somebody else doesn't feel bad, somebody else doesn't feel stressed, and that's again very parent-child kind of a dynamics, that you go on doing it and you actually overdo it and do much more. Like, so it's good to encourage people to, it's good for them to know that, like, if, for example, if I've been asking for making chapatis and, I'm making chapatis and I've been asking my partner, my husband, to get ghee and he doesn't get it. And I can then go to the shop and get the ghee so that he get the ghee wala chapati. But I can also relax also and give him a chapati without the ghee. So let him feel the tension. Na? I mean, it's again very sexist kind of a story of chapati woman is making vagara, vagara. But so I'm just saying that let the other people experience tension. And again, coming to the tensions is a very, like our body, So I was sharing a lot about it, that I've learned a lot from nature, from farming and from organic farming and things like that, permaculture also, that like our homeostasis, when our system is out of balance, some part experiences tension. Like, if you do more exercise, you feel a tension. So you stretch yourself, and then, but you need to have a container where you can catch the tensions. But if you're living in a house where you keep having a pain in your, in your legs, and nobody wants to hear it, and you don't have a space to share it, then where will you share the tension? And then everybody's going to get suffer in the end. So yeah, so like there's a book called, I think it's called so Anatomy of an Illness, where he talks about pain and how leprosy is actually a problem, is not the bacteria so much, but this loss of sensation of pain. So when we don't experience pain, we can injure that part and we don't even know. So it's like a tension is almost like a driving a car with a flat tire. So there's a flat tire, you don't even know. You don't even know that and you're still driving. So how do you create systems? And we'll have to work on it. So see, what I'm trying to build is also bring up a lot of blind spots which are not there. And I've realized that unless we start looking at these houses as a system, and now they're saying that domestic income and these things are being talked about by the government because UN is talking about it. Suddenly people are saying that, oh, all countries should think of, this caretaker ka income. Yeah, but, we need to think much earlier. But anyway, that's good, it's happening. So this is the third part. And so we will be setting up systems which are very simple. And we will come up as groups there, and people will share their stories and then create processes for them where how can they process their tensions. And I will bring in some tools from the things that I practice. So anybody else wants to add anything to it, or any insight, reflection, anything that is, triggering any thoughts?
Yeah, me and Yamni just ran out of some stuff in the kitchen, and just then Shammi was talking about creating a system for it, and we are like, we need to implement this. We can't keep running every now and then and realizing something got over. Or, we need to create a policy. We're trying to use specific terms also.
Great. So this immediate effect. That's what this David Allen in his book Getting Things Done. He says that when do I remember about the cat food? Not when I'm in the supermarket. When I see the cat, So So he's and actually a lot of holacracy is about getting things done in a system, in a whole process. It's very important. Great. The fourth point is that like, do you hate to force your children? It could be for homework, pushing the kids, go to school, or I don't know. There could be many things, or don't do this, don't touch this, or it's depending on age group of the kids. So yeah, so does anybody experiences that, or maybe not, but if anybody wants to share anything, you're welcome, or you have found a way to not do it also.
Does anyone on this call have children who they need to force to go to school or anything? I don't. On this call, I don't think that one is relevant.
That's relevant.
Oh,
not
Anandi
relevant.
is unmuting. One sec. Yes, Anandi?
Yeah, I face it all the time. Actually, my daughter is in 10th, and till now I have been doing it, and now I feel like, what am I doing it? I don't know. Yeah.
So your question is, what am I doing it? Which means that you are reflecting on the consequences, or is it the best strategy, or am I doing the thing which is meaningful, or is it helping my daughter, or is it something like that? You're reflecting now.
Yeah, and also, even if I'm convinced that this is what she should be doing, I don't know the right way to
Make her do that.
Yeah, and whatever I am doing right now, that doesn't seem right, and so I'm holding myself. Like, so I have learned to hold myself, but I don't know how to get her to at least think about what she's doing, and make her at least
Aware. Probably.
aware. Yeah.
And Natasha is sharing something about that. It's not about going to school only, but there's so many other things that, which I think Urmila shares a story about. Maybe Urmila, you can share that, you this thing of, but why? So we have jokes between me and Urmila. We can just say one word and we can laugh.
Yeah. That it's a longer session actually, because a lot depends on the I don't know how to take this on just
Do you want me to say?
head on. Yeah, Shammi, you
But anyways, it's about, let's forget Urmila, because I don't take responsibility of what happened between Urmila and her kids. So there was this character X, we can say it like that. And her kids were not going to school. And then she would say that, okay, have a bath. And the kids would just say, but why? And then she was, yeah, but why? Or change your clothes, but why? So a lot of things, sometimes they are having in a very default setting. That doesn't mean that there are things to be told and figured out, because we are all living together interdependently. But yeah, so that's the other part. So, this about the forcing wala part, it's a much deeper thing, like I'll give you an example that today I'm not putting everybody what Anand is saying, or it's not in one bracket. But like I was traveling, I was there today with a friend, and he had his son. And when we were coming back, his son kind of said that he wanted to sit in the front seat, and I was sitting in the front seat, And he was telling, convincing his son that no, you sit in the back seat. I say, yeah, but it's okay. I can sit in the back seat and I can still talk to you. कि मेरा कुछ घिस नहीं जाएगा अगर मैं पीछे बैठूंगा तो मतलब ना. So I sat in the back seat and the son sat in the front seat, and later on realized that he just wanted connection with his dad. So this just assumption that adults know better, or the world is designed for adults. I'm not saying all the issues are in this thing, but a lot of it also comes from this. And yeah, and when you say adults, then in the same way, work organization, the boss knows better and things like that goes on. So like how, if you've heard of the word adultism, where adults, almost like racism, where you see that as a one race is superior, one race can decide. So small things I keep noticing that they are happening. So how can we look at this fundamental thing of seeing children as collaborators, as also equivalent? It's not about equality, but equivalence, that they have the same feeling, they have the same needs. and it needs to have some kind of a mind shift also. And from that will come when we are hanging out together, hearing stories from other people, having deeper reflections in those 6 days, where we look at this in a way that we want to create a world where we can collaborate. And we are not able to do it, but it's not that it's not possible, and we might need different tools, different language, and a lot of NVC will also help in that. So that is one thing we would be
I will take this question actually, because initially I just felt shy to take the question, because as an unschooling mother who didn't know NVC, I just allowed my children, I didn't interfere. And over time, from when they were small, I noticed that these very things, I'll just look at Natasha's thing, eating, waking up, eating, and being on time. All these things I did not insist on, and I still don't insist on. So I will find my family members sleeping at all odd hours, different timings, really less sleep or really extra sleep. But I noticed that they're functioning fine. When they want to uh, do a course or a class, they do wake up, at 6 in the morning or whatever, to commute across town, or whenever they need to, they do it. And I feel over time I hadn't insisted on it. Eating, they just did. I mean, one of my sons just didn't eat for years. I can give details at some other time. I mean, didn't eat means really didn't eat, and even his bones and everything would pain. And then suddenly, at the age of 14, he became a conscious eater, looking up YouTube, telling me what to cook for him to build his body and his everything. So that he, over time, they took this on themselves. And similarly, punctuality, I never said anything, but they are going to only the things they want to, so they want to be punctual. It's like that. So I'm just sharing how it happened in my experience, that when I did not take responsibility. In fact, it was extra stressful for my children, because they till now know that, hey, these parents are never going to be insisting, so I better do it myself, or I'm never going to get anywhere in life. So that's my experience, which I would share in more detail at the workshop.
Yeah.
It's like my my unhosting, like when guests come to live with us, that I don't take responsibility. I did not take responsibility for my children eating or sleeping or changing or being punctual. And over time, they just did. They just took over there.
So I think what I'm hearing from Urmila you is that when they found some meaning in what is to be done, they could do these behaviors which support that. It's not that they had some, some kind of a, disability around it, that they can't do it. So it was their choice that they didn't find it meaningful. And which means that, yeah, so to understand that, and
Yeah,
it's not a discipline story or something,
Yeah, and another thing is, I feel that as urban westernized adults, we have a picture in our mind of what looks good, and we tend
Yeah.
to look at the outer behavior, and we tend to look at the outer appearance, and we don't see what's happening inside. And unschooling our family always looks like we're lazy, like we're sleeping too much, that we are messy, that it was messy till very recently. House was always very, very, it still is in some senses. And but my sister-in-law, we lived in a semi-joint family for about 19 years. And from the time my first baby was, my sister-in-law said, but they call us the Sammies. But we have pet names. John has many siblings, so we are the Sammies, the Pune Sammies. And she said, but the Sammies do everything that needs to get done is done. So what are people complaining about? Even as a mother, how can I complain when what needs to be done is done? It's never, till now, I can never say that they're not doing what needs to be done, but it looks like they're not doing anything.
So we'll be there, we'll be hearing different stories of different people who are experimenting with this idea of collaboration or equivalence, or understanding that they have the same needs. Yeah, there is this big, that it's like I went with this person with a child, in a carnival, and and so there was an expectation that the father is saying that, okay, let's go here. So I said, let him be for some time. We'll just follow him, because he will have his own agenda. But point is that so many times when we have our own agenda, which is decided by the society, this agenda, and we start behaving and all the systems are like that, then we need to, and that's the time when children is questioning that, why should I do that? It's a time for us to question ourselves, that sometimes. But yeah, it's not very black and white, so we can explore these things.
I was shy to take that question because it's not black and white.
Yeah, but that's what I written Urmila in this question. That maybe Urmila will speak. I'm glad you did speak about it, and we can do more later on. And yeah, the other part is that, which I think Anandi was sharing, that when when you have this question that what am I doing, so which I've noticed that some parents come up with this struggle, like about having a bath, and I was coaching somebody, and a couple and with their kid, and this whole thing of having a bath, and but I mean, it was not that infrequent also in the bathing, but this the woman had the idea that he should bathe every day, and because of that, she realized that, or he should have a bath at this time before he eats this. So actually, it's not even, it was every day he was still bathing, but before he has his lunch or snack or something, and then he would miss out on that, and he would have it later, and there would be a lot of friction on that. And when we talked about it, I said, but what is the consequence of your insisting? So she realized that he was actually having the bath because of her insistence, or there was drama on it, or something he was not having despite her drama or her insistence. But what they were losing was connection. And when the penny dropped when she said that, oh, so I said, do you want to prioritize connection or is bathing? And again, the bathing ke piche jo need is health, hygiene, things like that. And she said that, no, I want to focus on connection. And then for some days, she stopped, pushing the same energy that she was talking about earlier. So yeah, so like putting this, asking them to do the struggles that are happening. So how do we look at the needs of the children and the parents and find ways, and a lot of non-violent communication learnings will also help. We'll do role plays, practice around it, and things like that. So anybody else wants to add anything to this point?
The nice thing about role plays I noticed, Shammi, is that suddenly you get inspiration and get creative around the whole thing, and one's perspective changes, one attitude changes, whereas one is stuck in a pattern which seems unbreakable at home. So when you take that time away from home and you're doing the role play with other people and with other people's perspectives coming in, you get your own inspiration as to how to
It's like you create a field,
yeah.
And yeah, so anybody else wants to add anything around this? Fast. Okay, next. So there's one more point, which was having a safe community to learn, And here I would say Margaret Wheatley is a person who's written this book, Finding Your Way or something. And she talks of this community of space and community of practice. So we may not be living in the same place, but we have similar values. And when we come together, everybody would be in different parts of their journey. Like somebody would be in their journey around food in a certain place. Somebody would be around learning in a certain place, or their parenting in a certain place, or living sustainably in a certain place. So, but when we come together and have an intentional space for learning and reflection, we can learn from each other. So that is the community that we are trying to, like the Sangham, that we are trying to create. And it's the first retreat in that sense, but it can grow to, I don't know where it can go. But yeah, it's like, I've traveled in Brazil also and hung out with a lot of Portuguese and Spanish speaking people in Latin America or in Bengal. So I was just thinking of the word, like in Portuguese, maluk means the crazy one. And in Portuguese, loco is crazy one. Maluk means, in Spanish, maluk is the crazy one. And in Bengal, the Bauls call each other the kepa, like the crazy one. And And I think in Malang also, which is another crazy thing, it's not, so these are the people who have the junoon or the, who really want to, who are seekers, I would say. So they call each other in Bengal, the Bauls, they meet each other, they'll say Kepa, they will call each other Kepa. Or in Brazil, they will call each other Loco, with a very lovingly. So I'm just saying that people who have taken different paths, so we are the crazy ones, we have some kida, So how do we then come and learn for each other, hold each other, support each other learning? And that's also the intention of this gathering. So it can slowly become a base camp where you can come, learn, grow, again go back, because in the outer world, like so many things, like for example, I was sharing that I was thinking of making a PPT, but which is not really important. Or how in this program, when I put in the money thing in a very flexible way, so I start having doubt on myself. So is it the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? Why am I bothering about this? Will it work? So all these new ideas need containers, need support systems, and and so community is going to play a big part. So that's the other part of Teal family, would have values, and it will connect with other people who have similar values and learn from each other. And we will be having this opportunity if we come to this retreat. So I've shared these points, and now maybe we can hear other people if they have any questions. I can stop the recording now. Yamini, can you stop the recording?
Yeah, sure, I'll do that.